Okay, so another quick video clip today, and this is about GPS on the GoPro Hero 9. Now, a lot of people have reported having GPS problems, and there's probably a few reasons for this. When the GoPro Hero 9 was first released, one of the things that it did not do well was GPS data. Now, it was a bit of a shocker for some of us because we'd been used to getting accurate GPS data from the Hero 8, the 7, the 6, and even the Fusion and Max. However, when the GoPro 9 was released, it had a firmware issue, and this was confirmed by GoPro themselves, that basically meant it wasn't recording accurate GPS data. Now, what some of us actually did is we contacted GoPro, and we actually worked with GoPro to provide them samples of video clips, and I actually even worked closely with the creator of the GoPro Telemetry Extractor to actually help diagnose the issue with the actual GoPro, and we did actually confirm it was a firmware issue. Now, there were a couple of interesting things about this, and one of them was that when the camera was powered on, and even if you hadn't started recording, drove down the road, got a GPS lock, and then started recording, it would actually only record a GPS point from the initial power on location, which, points to a pretty weird issue with the camera, all right. However, GoPro did actually release an updated firmware, version 1.5, which actually fixed the GPS issues. Now, this was really great. It was confirmed by a lot of users that the GoPro GPS issues were indeed fixed. However, some people still are reporting GPS issues with their GoPros. And the point of this video is just to take you through some simple steps to make sure that you're recording your GPS data accurately and properly, and that you're using the camera properly. So, like any other piece of equipment that requires GPS, such as a phone, a GPS navigation device, or even a drone, the system has to be able to power itself on and establish a GPS lock in order to actually get that GPS data. Now, the problem is that a lot of people actually use this top button on their GoPro to power on the camera. This is not the power button. This is the shutter button. It's also known as the quick capture button. And what happens when you press that button, your GoPro will actually turn on and start recording video immediately. And as you can see, it's powered on. The problem with that is that because it's like starting to record video immediately once it's powered on, it hasn't had enough time to establish GPS lock. So therefore, what's actually happening now is that you're recording video, no GPS lock has been established, so therefore any video that you record is not going to have GPS data stored on it. You press that button again on top, stops recording, powers down your camera. So, one of the things with getting GPS data on your camera is don't use the quick capture button. Do not use this top button. It is not the power button. It is the quick capture button, and your camera will start recording before GPS lock is established. Instead, what you want to do is actually use the button on the side of the camera. This here is your power button. You just press it, release it, your camera is going to power on, and basically what's going to happen is that now your camera is not recording, but it's powering on, it's going through all the operations in the background, and it's going to eventually try and establish GPS lock. So as you can see, that icon on the top is lit up white. It's not in focus here because I have the autofocus turned off. But if we just do this, you can actually see that GPS lock icon is actually lit up, and therefore the camera has established GPS lock. There are things that can affect the GPS lock that you have. So if I start recording this now, you'd expect it to have a steady GPS signal and GPS data all the way through the recording, but that may not be the case. There's a couple of things that's going to affect the quality of your GPS signal. First of all, if you're using the GoPro Media Mod, which is the case that actually surrounds this, it's got the built-in microphone, the HDMI out, the power in, the line in, that actually blocks GPS signal around. And although I have recorded GPS signal with that media mod on, I find the signal can be a lot weaker with anything surrounding the camera. Another thing you're not going to want to do is mount it where you don't have a clear view of the sky. Now, I'm indoors at the moment. I'm actually, in my house surrounded by a lot of crap. And basically, I'm actually very surprised I got a GPS signal, because usually when you don't have a clear view of the sky, you won't get a GPS lock. And there's another reason you may not actually have GPS lock. And this is something that not a lot of people may have realized yet. And what happens is, if you've had GPS issues or camera issues and you've been reloading your firmware, resetting your camera, or even loading the GoPro Labs firmware onto your camera, sometimes that can actually turn your GPS off. So basically what will happen here is I'm just going to turn off the GPS on the camera at the moment. Okay, there's no icon on that screen to let you know that the GPS has been turned off. In fact, to get that GPS information, what you need to do is swipe down on the screen, and as you can see right now there is no GPS. But if you look very closely at the GPS icon, you can see there is a strike through it. Now that strike actually means that the GPS is not turned on the camera. So that's one of the things you gotta look for, and I have to admit that GPS icon is actually so small it actually even caught me by surprise, because I didn't actually realize at one stage my GPS was off and I'm wondering why I'm not getting a signal, and it's because I just couldn't make out that very faint little cross mark through the GPS icon. So remember, turn on your GPS, and all you have to do, swipe on your camera, go into preferences, just swipe up and go to regional, and in regional it says GPS off. I'm just going to click on it, pull it down to on, and that's it. Now my GPS is now turned back on, and already I've got a GPS signal. So there's some tips there for you to help with your GPS issues with your GoPro Hero 9. And just remember, very quickly, number one, make sure you're using the latest firmware, which is version 1.5. Make sure your camera is updated to that. And for me, I always do a manual camera update because I just find it's more reliable than using a GoPro app. Sometimes the app, if it doesn't load up properly, can cause issues. So do a manual firmware update of your camera. Secondly of all, make sure it's not enclosed in a case or the media mod, because that might affect your GPS signal. Make sure your camera is mounted the proper way up and has a clear view of the sky, totally unobstructed, because if you're mounting that on a roll bar in a Jeep, you know, once that metal's overhead, it could interfere with that GPS signal. And also make sure that your GPS is on. Now, there's one more thing about GPS with your GoPro Hero. So the GoPro mobile app for your smart device, such as your iPhone or your Android-based phone, that supports GPS data, and that's absolutely fantastic. You can import your clips, edit your clips, and then add your GPS stickers. However, there seems to be an issue with a lot of people still trying to use a Windows-based app called Quick. Quick is terrible software. It always was. It's like drag and drop video editing for idiots. The only way to put this. Quick also is discontinued non-supported software. It is no longer supported, it is not updated, it's not going to be updated, it is discontinued. Now, if you're using that software, hey, guess what? That software has not been updated in over 2 years at this point. The last camera it supported was the GoPro Hero 7. It will not support the GoPro Hero 8 GPS functions, it will not support GPS on the GoPro Hero 9. Both of those cameras came out after the very last update of Quick. And since Quick is discontinued, it's never going to work with those cameras. So if you want to add GPS stickers to your actual GoPro footage using Windows, you're going to have to use something like the GoPro Telemetry Extractor or the GoPro Telemetry Overlay. Both of those are, you know, pretty good. I love using the Telemetry Overlay myself. I think it's fantastic software, but you have to pay for it. GoPro don't have a Windows-based software that's basically will add GPS stickers to your GoPro Hero 8 or GoPro Hero 9 footage. They just don't have it. So if you're using Quick, not going to work. Get rid of Quick, get it off your computer. There's a lot of compatibility issues now with Quick because it's so old and hasn't been updated. I believe that on the latest Apple update it's not working, and Windows, rumored, has a big update coming this year, and it could just stop working then when that's released. So please, for the love of God, stop using Quick. It's terrible software, don't use it. Anyway, those are the issues with the GPS on the GoPro Hero 8 and 9. Hopefully these tips have proven useful to you, and you know, if there's any questions you have, please feel free to leave a question in the comment section. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really does help, and I truly appreciate it. Cheerio.